Heart Talk Podcast. I am one of the hosts, Brandon, and we're so happy that you're here with us today. Today we have a special episode. First and foremost, we want to give a special shout out to all the fathers out there. That's number one. Happy Father's Day for those fathers who have been in the trenches with their kids. We salute you, everybody from all over the world. We salute you. Which gave me an idea. My wife recently did a Mother's Day forum on Mother's Day, highlighting the role of a mom, a wife, as well as a millennial. And so they kind of gave me an idea to kind of step out, but do it a little bit differently. I wanted to bring in some fathers so you can hear from their perspective what fatherhood means to them, how fatherhood has changed them dramatically, and how do they, navigate through life as a father, and especially during the times that we're going through now. How has their navigation, how has it changed them or even affected them during this time? So what I did, I got four. I know they're dope fathers. I know they are. They live it out daily. They are what I call the example of real men. And so I went out and I got these guys. These guys came to my mind when I got this idea. And I want to make sure that they're going to introduce themselves. But I just wanted to give an introduction to these great men, these great fathers. And I hope you guys enjoy this episode like I know that I will. Again, I want everybody to come on in, and we're going to it's like a forum. We're just going to just talk around just about fatherhood. And so you enjoy. All right. So before we start, I'm going to start first. We're going to introduce ourselves so you guys can know who we are. Of course, I said in the beginning, I am Brandon. I am one of the hosts. Me and my wife co-host our podcast called the Heart Talk Podcast. I'm married. I have a son who's 2, and we stay in Dallas at the moment. And me and my wife have been married for 4 years now. I believe I got it right. And very appreciative of where God has us at right now in our lives. So that's me. We're going to go ahead and and whoever can go ahead and start next, like I said, just take it away. Introduce yourselves, who you are.
All right, I'll go next. My name is Shane. I have been married to my lovely wife, Rachel, for coming up on 7-ish years now. We have a son who is coming up on 4 years old. His name is Ezra. And then I also am just a new father of a daughter, just 20 days old. Thank you. It's been a great experience. What's kind of special and interesting about our marriage is that we're an interracial couple, so I have that perspective of not only being white, but also married to a Black woman raising biracial children. So that's kind of what's going on in my life.
Dope, man.
Thank
All
you.
right. Awesome. I don't want to name people. Somebody just go. Shoot.
I would name.
All right, Chuck, you go.
All right, hey, my name. I mean, you just told everybody my name. All right. Anyway, my name is Chuck. You all, I'm very happy to be a part of this this forum and wonderful podcast with my brother Brandon. I'm the father of 3 beautiful children, ages 3, 4, and 5.
Lord.
I have man. That's the win, brother. That's the win, brother. Get them out the way. 11, each one of them 11 months apart. Man, get it done.
Bang, bang.
Of course, I'm married. Me and my wife have been married for 6 years. And it's like I said, it's a pleasure to be a part of this, brother.
Welcome.
Nice.
Ben, we'll go Ben, then we go Cornell last.
All right. My name is Benjamin. I am a father of a 7-year-old girl. I am actually divorced, so that's the dynamic that I'm going to be speaking from, of trying to parent a African American daughter from 2 different households. I'm a Christian. I'm a believer. I like my background right here. I'm in this computer lab compared to everybody else's background, which looks like they're all comfortable and off work. And my lighting is not that good either, but that's my spiel. I'm happy to be here. That's my brother down there.
Welcome. All right. Last but certainly not least, can you please
Money man.
Express yourself.
That's what it look like.
What's up, everybody? My name is Cornell Howard. I'm in Cincinnati, Ohio. Known my brother Brandon here for a long time.
Yes, Lord. Yes, Lord.
Long time.
Yes,
But anyway,
Lord.
I am married, 26 years of marriage, matter of fact. So I guess that will make me the elder statesman
Yes, you are
around
the
here.
elder statesman here.
On both ends, because I have 3 children, Eric, Miles, and Kayla, all of which are grown now and out of the house. So I guess I will be coming from the standpoint of after your children are gone, how fatherhood is still in play, even as they're adults living their own lives with their own children, because I have grandchildren as well.
Mm.
Oh man.
Yeah.
Jeff,
Oh,
So
yeah,
that's
got
why he got so much money. He ain't
five
got
of
the
them.
kids in the house
5.
no
He
more.
got kids in the hospital, right?
He got no kids in the house. That's why I got all that fancy. That's why I got the fancy garden stuff, man.
Y'all
Hey,
out.
hey, but you know what? When they come over, they come over. Hey, how y'all doing? Oh, okay, it's time for y'all to go.
That's awesome, man.
No, but I love them though. I love them.
That's awesome, man. We welcome you. We welcome you. Thank you guys for sharing that. First, we're going to just start off with a question to kind of put it out there. My first question is: all of you guys, did you always know growing up that you wanted to be a father? And I guess it's a 2-part question. Did you always know that you wanted to be a father? And the question 2 is: did anything in your childhood prepare you for fatherhood? We're going. So I'll let y'all think about it for a little bit. Get y'all questions over.
You gonna name names?
Yes, I'm gonna name names.
We should just go in the
Thank you.
same order that we went to for the introduction.
Right,
That should be the order for everything that we
That works.
So you want? No, we're gonna start Shane.
Okay, all
We're
right.
gonna start Shane and then go to Chuck. We'll go to Ben and Cornell, and then I'll go last. Okay.
So, first part of that question is, did I ever want kids growing up? Right. So, basically, I kind of always knew in the nebulous, kind of like out there in my future, but not really thinking about it, that I wanted to have some sort of a family. I wasn't sure what. It was never like a dream of mine to have wife, kids, picket fence, but I kind of knew that was kind of something in my future. It wasn't until I really started to like intentionally date in my late 20s where I kind of more pieced out and developed the idea of what would it look like for a long-term marriage, what would it look like to have kids and a family in that marriage, when I really started to develop ideas around what my family would look like. For your second part of that question is what prepared me. I think growing up with, a father that, was always there, loving, just kind of like not so much talkative. He was very, very a doer, not much of a talker type of person. Him showing me what that looks like to be a dad and like how to love kids through your actions and through his presence. That is what I look back on now as kind of like the foundation. I of course want to iterate and change from that, but that's kind of a good foundational piece for me for preparations for being a father. So those are my 2 answers.
Okay, great, man. Okay, Chuck.
So for me, I think growing up, I'm the oldest of 10 children. My mom and dad.
Wait a minute. You have to cross past that. Like that ain't significant.
No. So my mom and dad, man, there's some, all my kids 11 months apart. The sauce don't drip too far from the plate. That came from somewhere. They got, got a bunch of them. But it was 10 of us growing up, man, and I for the most part, I always knew that I would be a father, just because of how it was. I didn't necessarily want to, though. I would tell mom all the time, like, I'm not having kids. I spent all my life being around kids. I'm not gonna have any of my own. And I think that that changed once I had my first one. Once I had my first kid, I'm like, man, I love this. This is the life. And as far as like the examples that I had growing up, man, I had probably, and I argue with anybody on the planet. I had the best dad ever, like the best dad. My dad lived a completely different life before I was born and towards the early parts of my life. When I was in second grade, he found God. He got saved and he gave up everything. He didn't have much formal education. He didn't have any like skilled trades or anything like that. But he wanted a better life for me and my siblings. At the time, it was just me. I had two little sisters at that time, and he abandoned all, man, just like the Bible says, forsaking all to follow Christ. He really did that. And for me, growing up in that type of household with somebody who's willing to toss it all aside because they want a better life for you, you know, through every hardship that we've had, man, that was definitely my example on being a father and what it was like. And I think every day, I'm always leaning and gleaning from the information I took from that experience, whether it be good or bad. Because of course, even with him being the best dad ever, he wasn't perfect, but I had this confidence in my father. There are two things I knew for sure. I knew my dad loved me every day, and I knew for a fact that if it was my dad versus anybody else's dad in a fight, my dad would win. So that for me, that for me gave me that confidence, and that having a superhero in the house thing, man, was a huge deal for me. So for my children, I try to do the same thing. I try to keep myself in a space where they know I love them at all times. I'm gentle, caring, all that good stuff. But also, if anybody ever comes around, you can be confident that your dad can beat their dad up. So that's my Brad. You know me, brother.
I know.
I'm telling the truth, man. But that's my MO, man. That's my piece. Go ahead. Go ahead, man.
All right, man. Great. Thanks for sharing, Ben.
All right, so I actually thought more about marriage more than I thought about being a father.
Mm.
Like I knew from my parents were deaf to children part. My father passed away in '08, and they were married from day one till then. Um, and I just saw marriage as being like, that's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna have a wife and I'm gonna have some kids, and I'm gonna do a great job at it. My father, he was we had a up and down relationship through his life, and ironically, our relationship got to an amazing point right before he passed away. And I thank God for that. That's kind of a story behind that, but I won't get into all that. But I always knew I wanted to be a husband, and I always knew I wanted to be a father. And most of my occupation is working with kids anyway. So it was like I was honing my own skills with everybody else's kids. I'm like, I might as well bring this home. So had my own, and that's why I try to do it. So I think that's both questions, right?
Yeah, you answered
Yeah.
both of them.
In one, cool.
Good job, man. All right,
Thank you.
Cornell.
I think to answer that question, going back to my childhood, my son Eric was already here when I met my wife. So it was kind of a built-in family when she and I got together. But
Was it her
I
son? Was
think
her son or your son?
it was her son.
Okay.
It was her son. Now, the only thing is I think I made a decision early coming from a family where my mom and my dad were divorced when I was 9. So I saw my father, that every 2-week type of thing. You spend the weekend with your dad and whatnot. And I knew my dad loved me, but he wasn't there a whole lot of times throughout, those important times in life. So I think I made a conscious decision within myself that I wasn't going to let that happen to my kids when I had them.
Mhm.
So I think that was part of one of the things that gravitated me to fatherhood and taking on fatherhood early, when I met my wife. It was almost like a no-brainer for me.
Mhm.
You love her, you love him. So when he it was more or less one of those things where when she became comfortable
Mhm.
with me and we moved in together, she moved him in, and it was just like, hey, and it's just like, this is my son. So,
Wow.
and then, after, a couple years of marriage, the other two came, and it's been the same ever since. Now, the other dynamic is that um, I think I told you some of you guys before that, yes, Eric's not my son. So him finding his father now, he's reached out and, started to develop a relationship with his natural father now. So he has fathers on both ends, and he's kind of enjoying that whole dynamic of having two dads,
Mhm.
so to speak.
And quick question before I go with that, because I kind of been going through that same thing. My father's been in jail, and I'll get to that. But my father's been in jail, and I've been pretty much raised with my stepdad. But from your situation, do you feel a certain type of way? Well, I mean, I know everybody's grown now or whatever, but like, is there a feeling in you to be like, I'm the one who raised them, um, and him coming in, kind of, you feel like he'll interrupt that at all,
No,
a connection?
no,
Okay.
no. It's because I have, and see, that's one of the reasons I'm glad that I have Jesus
Amen.
to kind of fix those things, because in our carnal thinking you may think that,
Hmm.
but he's fixed it in my mind to where the Holy Spirit's kind of taught me that you've imparted those things that needed to be imparted from you.
Hmm.
Now there are those things that need to be imparted from him, because he's his natural father,
Hmm.
and he has to learn where he came from, who his family is. And actually, my son and our relationship has gotten into a new dynamic, because he knew that I was always adopted. He knew that I was adopted.
Hmm.
So he's even imparted to me that some of the hard questions that he has in his brain, he says he knows the only person that can really understand that is me, because he was separated from his natural father.
Hmm.
So those feelings that he has, he's like, Pops, I know that you're the only person that truly understands what I feel, because you never knew your real father. I was like, you're right.
Wow.
So we actually glean to each other on that level now, and it's pretty cool, because the more questions he has, the more we can kind of come together, and I can talk to him like a grown man now and say, hey, I understand, Doc. I understand what you're going through. I understand what's going in your head. But I think he's also, with those questions, he's enjoying the fact that, now he's learning, why I do the things that I do,
Hmm.
why I have the certain mannerisms that I have. And to be honest, man, I mean, yeah, I know you've said once before that we look alike.
Yeah.
No, dude, if you put him next to his actual dad,
Hmm.
they're identical.
Wow.
I mean, literally identical.
Wow.
The only difference is his hair is long with dreads, and his dad's head's like mine.
Oh.
That's the only difference.
I believe in when I see it. Because when
Okay. I'll show you. I'll show you, man.
when you
Pictures
told,
there, it's not real.
yeah, I gotta see the picture, because y'all look alike. So okay, so for me, I always knew I wanted to be a father. I always knew that I wanted to be a husband, throughout my entire life. And Chuck's laughing right now because we met in college, and I was in college stressing all of this while I was out there being in college. So in the midst of all of that, but through life, I've always wanted. I always felt a desire for family. Period. Growing up in my life, and it's so crazy because I grew up with a single mom until I was 6, and then my stepfather came into the picture. My dad is always my biological dad lived in Indiana while I lived in Cincinnati. So, and plus he was in jail pretty much in my entire life. However, it's so weird because I talked to a lot of men whose dads weren't there, I guess, and they always feel an emptiness because their dad wasn't there. For me, I was kind of blessed that my father wasn't there, because in the midst of him being away, God put my stepdad and also other people in, because I grew up in the church, so other people in the church kind of filled that void. So whenever it was like, do you feel like feel any animosity towards your father? No, like I still call him, surprisingly enough. I don't. I call him dad. I mean, but it's not of an emotional connection. But it's I'm still, I guess I respect him because he
Yeah.
brought me into this world. It's because but I thank God for for the void that was filled, that I never had to feel that. So in the midst of that, my stepdad came into the picture. He was always strict, like he came, like before I never had to say no, yes ma'am, or nothing like that. He came in the picture, I started having to say yes ma'am, yes sir, but it was like to a whole nother level. Like he kind of took it to like a militant type of level, which started like it created a fear instead of a love. And I know that mostly through fatherhood, or like even God wants us to fear him, right? But it's a love behind it. And it's love. With him, it was just, I felt like it was just fear. Like I didn't want to move the wrong way or do this, or he felt like I was being disrespectful. I remember a time where I was in a car, and y'all remember Genuine's Pony, right? When the first, y'all know the song. So when it came out, I was like real young. I was young. I didn't know the words. I just knew that in the beginning of the song, it sounded like somebody was burping. So Brandon is in the car. Like I'm thinking somebody's. So all of a sudden, I get a little tap in the mouth. Like what? Because I didn't know. So I feel like it was very strict during my raising. But it was balanced as well in the sense of when I went to church, God placed men in my life to kind of be that spiritual godly figure. So I had a spiritual dad throughout my teenage years and to a little bit of my grown up years, and he kind of taught me the spiritual aspect and the worship aspect, and then I seen his life and what was going on. So these were the examples that God kind of placed for me. And then on top of that, when I was 16, I got a prophecy from a person, a prophet. And the prophet said to me at 16, hormonal teenager, that I was supposed to get married at a young age. Now, when he told me this, it sparked something in me. I'm like, I'm supposed to get married at a young age? So every girl that I ever came in contact with, I was basing off of that. Like, okay, you be together, so we must be supposed to be getting married then. You know what I'm saying? And it kind of it was wrong. No, it wasn't wrong. Well, I don't know if what they said was wrong. It probably was, because it didn't even happen the way they said it was supposed to happen. But every relationship was based off of that. And I scared a lot of people away. I'm young, 18, 19, talking about some marriage. I just graduated from high school. What do you mean marriage? And that kind of, messed me up from that standpoint. But yeah, I've always known I wanted to be a father. I always knew I wanted to be a husband. And those are my examples. But then I just talked about the woman standpoint. We're going to move into this next question about women. Yes, go ahead.
Can I ask? I just have a question for you, though.
Mm-hmm.
Now, out of those relationships that you lost out on, that you feel like you lost out on, did you learn anything in between those?
Yeah.
About yourself?
Yes.
Stop being so thirsty.
Will you be my wife?
It wasn't like that, okay?
How old were you married?
How old was I married?
Go ahead, Chuck. Go ahead, Chuck.
Oh, well, hold on. I guess we're good.
You got too many questions coming at you.
Yeah. Okay, first question. Chuck, go ahead.
No, I was saying I don't want to tell your life story, but no, everything Brandon said about him think he gonna get married to everybody he ever dated. Yeah, man, we have some phenomenal college stories of women who are definitely not gonna be his wife. Like they're probably not gonna be anybody's wife ever, and if they are, he's like, no, she's the one, man. I'm like,
hey, quick, and like I said, we've been transparent here. Listen, so I had a friend in college, and she was known, and you know what the Bible says that you knew somebody knew them. She was known. but I was the one that wanted to. I wanted
You want her better?
to be her. I felt like she was the one, and everybody like, bro, she out here clowning when she was just with such and such, and I'm like, okay, but
No,
still,
no. Like no,
Bruh.
look, man, look. She finding herself. Don't worry, she mine though. We gonna be. Look, we good over
we
here.
good over here, you know. So yeah,
Bruh.
it was bad. But okay, and then Shay had a question.
When did you marry Tia?
I married Tia when I was 20, 25, 25,
Yeah,
26, 26.
that was not a prophecy, bro. That was not a prophecy.
It was a bad problem.
Find that person.
26 is still pretty.
Somebody
I think
revoke
26
that
is still
prophecy
pretty young to
card.
get married.
26 is pretty
Yeah,
young,
man.
but that's like the normal age. When
Yeah.
you make that prophecy, usually
Young.
if you're saying you're gonna get married at a young age, that
You're a
means
teenager.
you're about to get married like in the next few years. Like everybody usually gets married around the 26, that area. You know what I'm saying? 20, 24 to 20, late 20s. You know what I'm saying? So, but yeah, you're right. You're totally right, Shane. I learned my lesson though. To Cornell's question, over time, I started to realize what I was doing. I started to realize how I was operating. Because in the midst of all that, even though I was doing that, I was getting hurt in the process. And while I was getting hurt in the process, it was starting to build an anger at the same time. Because I was angry at the fact that I thought I was supposed to get married at a young age. And then why ain't this happening? And why do this person keep hurting me? And they know my heart and they know what I'm doing. And it started to build like a resentment in the midst of that. And then I started acting out on that like through life. But then I had a you know kind of wake up call where it was kind of like God was like, okay. And I think Chuck remembers this. And my wake up call was in college. It was like 2012. Me and my sister Annette, literally God just came in and just like redirected my whole life in a sense, you know, and gave me a wake up call. Like, I am the person you need to be seeking right now. Because once you seek me, I will show you where you need, you know, I will direct you to where you need to go. That's what you focus on, you. And that kind of helped me out greatly. And the minute I did that, literally, I met Tia later that year.
Hey.
So
Hey.
Listen, I'm gonna tell you how wild it was. He met Tia and wouldn't tell us he met Tia.
nope.
We like, bro, who you talking to? He like, no,
Nah, y'all don't touch her.
No,
No, they ain't gonna mess this up. Listen, not at all. So that's perfect, though. Me talking about Tia. It leads me to my next question. Did you guys, and Ben, you can answer as well. Did you all know, or did you think you was gonna be good husbands? And how did you navigate through that of understanding like, okay, I want to be a husband, but what does that look like for me? What does that what does that look like? I know you guys mentioned, you know, you grew up and probably your parents had, you know, you probably saw their example, but for you, how did you understand that, okay, I want to be a husband, but what is this? What is this for me? So we'll start in the same order, and y'all know the order by now. So go ahead, do your thing.
To be a good husband, so when I met Rachel, Rachel's relationship was super different. I was in the right headspace for it. I was not in the right financial space or the right life space for it, but I was in like the right headspace for it, and it just felt different. Like, you know, when they say like love at first sight, or just like you have that feeling, you know, you want to marry somebody. Mm-hmm. I felt that in this relationship. So for me, I know that Rachel was the one and is the one today. And then all I knew is that if I loved her, then I felt like I was going to be a good husband to her. Now, when I say that, there's a lot of other things that have to happen for me to love her correctly, especially because we are in an interracial couple. I had to learn a whole lot of things in order to love her appropriately. I had to learn, like, you know, what it means to tie your hair up, or what does it mean to have ashy skin, use lotion, like all these like trivial things, plus like 1,000 other like more serious things. I had to learn all that, and then a part of our journey at long term loving her correctly was I thought was to help her through her kind of racial stuff of uh, like what it meant to be a black woman and her relationship with black men and other white men or men in general. Uh, and now I actually think loving her correctly is going on that same journey, but for me, like, what does it mean to be white? What does it mean to have white privilege? How do I raise kids? Like all of those steps are loving correctly too. And each step I take in this sort of pattern for me loving her specifically correctly is just an overall being a better father. So it's just super interconnected. Loving my wife is also being a good father, and being a good father is loving my wife. So
That's good. That's good, Shane.
yeah.
Great, beautiful, man. So for me, it's probably like the exact opposite. Like
Hold on.
yeah, it's probably like
Before you go though, Chuck, can I ask a Shane
Go ahead.
question real quick? Shane,
Yeah.
Yeah.
when you first got with Rachel, being that she was black, was she the first black girl that you ever been with? First question: was she the first black girl that you ever like got kind of interested in or was with? And what was the reaction from your friends and family once you like brought her around, if they were new to her and things like that?
So I was not the first. I had dated other black women before Rachel.
Oh, so you
So
like
that-
you like them? You like
Okay,
them?
I see.
look, you got a single
Rachel's not the first.
Okay.
I was the first. I was the first white guy that Rachel dated. So I
Okay.
was the first.
Oh,
Oh.
Um,
Oh, look at him infecting Rachel with the jungle fever. Look at
it's called the white blight. If you don't know your terminology, it's called the white blight. Okay.
The white.
the white I never heard that. I've never
Oh
heard
man, I
that.
don't know what that is, man. Listen,
All right,
I don't know what white
but,
blight is, but I got daughters, man. I need a vaccine or something, brother.
White
I'm joking,
light.
The
man. I'm
white
joking.
light.
all right.
So
So,
white
anyways. What was it like outside of our relationship? Because we can just contain it in like this little bubble for so long, right? We have to talk to friends, family. She was in California, and I was originally from Pennsylvania. I grew up in a very liberal family, so didn't really matter to my family. Well, the racial thing, like the fact that we were together, doesn't really matter. They were fine with it. The bigger issue at the time was actually that I wasn't a Christian and that she was very religious, very Christian. That was a much bigger issue in the beginning part of our relationship. There was it was pretty cool. I've had other experiences in my other relationships where the dynamic was really different and was very confrontational with her family, with the other girl's family. So that it helps when families and friends don't mind the relationship as far as the color goes. So
if that would have came into play, do you think that the relationship would have been different? You think you would have went on with the relationship, or yeah, that's the question.
So interracial relationships are really cool. You really have to, when people jump into them or go into them, like you really have to love the other person. This is just my personal opinion, but like in order to marry somebody of a different race or a different, cross lines of difference, it's really a statement of like, you're really in it. You're like really, there's a lot of extra hurdles that society places on it. So I've talked to other interracial couples that have been together for much longer and that have gone through much worse, like back before the Lovings, back before like miscegenation laws. So it's really the statement of like, you really do love this person and you're willing to go through some stuff. to be in that love. So I think our relationship was super strong and still is super strong, and I think it would have happened anyways.
Awesome, man. Good stuff. Go ahead, Chuck. Go ahead, Chuck.
No, so I mean, first of all, brother, that is beautiful. I think it's I, it encourages me as far as you said how you said that in order to love somebody of a different race or something like that, you have to be really involved because there's so many other outside factors. Man, that's I think for me personally, I try to take that same mindset into my. Even though we're both black, I think that same understanding, like culturally, you can be so different even though you look the same,
Yeah.
and it's ingratiating yourself and
Mhm.
embracing the culture from your significant other, man. That's a that can be a huge hurdle. So I commend you, brother, for I commend you for being willing to take that step. And
Yeah.
you know, anyway, so me and my wife, it was the complete opposite. It was not love at first sight. It was none of that. It was when I first met my wife. I can be honest with you, man. When I first met my wife, I thought she was really pretty, but she was younger than me. And at the time, I really liked ladies who are older. I'm like, she's younger than me, and she's really pretty and all of that stuff. But I was like, I don't know. I don't know, man. She's super young, so I wanted her to go out here and enjoy herself. So when we first started like dealing with one another, like I would kind of try to deal with her like I dealt with all the other women that I had dealt with. Kind of do my thing, get out the way. That was how I had dealt with women up to that point. But that's just the man in me, right? But God is so special and so awesome, man. He knew that she was for me, even though I didn't,
Mhm.
right? And I think there were when I was trying to like walk away from Nadia, like step away, like okay, I don't know if I really want to be with you like that. Like you know, every like there were other guys on campus and stuff like that were just like throwing themselves at her, and I'm like, what am I missing? Like, what are y'all? Why are y'all acting like this? And so over time, what would happen is she would be so like taken aback by how they were treating her. I would be like the not the counsel, but like the covering. Like, all right, look, man, ain't nobody gonna like get away from her. Like it became more like I'm trying to protect her, right? And then over time, you have those conversations and you talk, and I realized that she wasn't the same as all the other women that I had dealt with. I saw the difference in her so much sooner because when I was trying to walk away, she's like, no, 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 you're for me. And her willingness to put herself out there really kind of allowed me to discover something in myself that I have been fighting because I grew up in a wonderful home. My mom and dad have loved each other forever. But in doing so, once I got to college, I wanted to be rebellious. I'm like, I don't want to be with somebody who I'm going to love forever. I want to be with people that I'm going to love for a couple days and keep moving.
And that was
But
him.
but God but God had but
You
God
don't want
had
to explain? Okay.
he had
You don't want to
I
talk
mean
about how Chuck was.
no
Real talk.
Express
but it was
yourself.
no it was no honestly, man, I lived a certain type of life, but it was never like it was never like a big deal to me, right? I just wanted to enjoy my life and do the things that I did. My parents had kids young. I wanted to be. My mom would always encourage me, "Hey, son, go out there and enjoy your life." But meeting Nadia, the more I was around Nadia, the more special she became to me. It's like sometimes for me, I always look at it like you try to throw the rock away because you don't see the diamond in it. But over time, every time you try to toss it away, it's like, man, why does everybody? Why I want to sell this little rock, and someone's like, well, I'll give you $100 for it. $100? I wasn't expecting that. Somebody's like, no, no, I'll give you 1,000 for it. You're like, 1,000? I'll give you $1,000,000 for that rock. You're like, wait a minute, give me this rock. And man, over time, she has, like I said, it was 100% orchestrated by God because come to find out, her family and my family have been close for generations. Her sister, like I knew her pastor and my pastor were brothers. Like we were both Kojic. Her father's best friend was a good friend of my father's. Like we have been around each other our entire lives and just never knew each other.
Wow.
And I think what was happening, I think God was preparing us in the same space but in separate places. Because had I met Nadia a year or 2 years before I did, I would have squandered it. I wouldn't have taken that extra time to sit back and listen, and she wouldn't have taken the time to like deal with my craziness because I was a nut, and I never thought I'd be a decent husband. Like I never thought it. I'm like, I know I'm gonna be a good dad. I know I'm gonna be a good dad if I have kids. But I never, for in my wildest imaginations, thought I would be even a decent husband. just because of the way that I was living. But what happened was, man, like the second she told me she was getting ready to have kids, I had to have a sit down with myself and be like, do you really love this woman? You know, do you want to keep the kid? If you want to keep the kid, do you want to keep her? And if you want to keep her, what do you have to do to keep her? And it was like a lot. It was so many thoughts on in my head about it. And over time, God kind of revealed Himself to me because I'm like, I want to marry her because I want to spend the rest of my life with her. Right? Like I once I recognized the jewel she was, I'm like, oh, I want to. This is the woman I want to be with forever. Like I don't care what happens. I don't care what she does. If she's still mad at me for things that I did, so she lashes out. Don't care. I want to be with her forever. And once I decided that, I realized I was in way over my skis. I didn't know what I was talking about, what I was doing. And I kid you not, almost a year into our relationship, I was listening to a sermon on the internet. And the guy was breaking down where Paul talks about, husbands love your wives as Christ loves the church. And I went and I read the chapter, and that thing became so personal to me. Like the willingness to die for that woman. Like if you made her your wife, this isn't it. This is no longer about you and her. This is about you and God, right? Because that's what marriage is. Marriage isn't and I don't want to go too long. I'm sorry, but marriage isn't for me at least. It's not. It's a connection between a man and woman, but it's really the invitation to God into that connection. Because everything you can do while you're married with a woman, you can do while she's your girlfriend. Just dating when you meet her on the street, whatever. But once you get married, you're opening up the window for God to come and be in that relationship, and your marriage is a direct reflection of God's love for His people. And that for me was the thing. Like I didn't want to embarrass God by being a bad husband, so I changed how I would do things. I tried to be more kind. I just tried to be a better husband because of that. So yeah, I'm sorry it took a long
Oh
time.
no, that was good, man. That was
Go
good.
ahead,
Don't
man.
don't don't feel bad for do your
Yeah,
thing.
man,
Yeah, awesome.
you preaching today,
Yeah,
brother.
you on
No,
there. You on there.
Hallelujah.
Preaching. Oh, it's on me.
Yes, sir.
All right. As I stated before, I am divorced, and I would say that I still I don't know. I would say this. Probably my worst issue that I feel like I learned so much about marriage after I got divorced. Like I feel like I'm an expert at it now. Like I feel like I understand what it is. But my problem was when I came into marriage, I was very arrogant, very prideful, and one of the lessons I think I learned from being divorced is that my problem was going into this relationship I had, and looking at other people's relationships and judging how I would handle their problems. And I would be like, oh, okay, I know I'm gonna. Oh, we don't have those issues. Oh, yeah, they arguing over there. Oh, we ain't gonna have those issues. And I was like, okay, yeah, but I realized afterwards that everybody's issues are tailor made for them, tailor made. So you not gonna have the same issues as down the street as somebody else. You got your own issues, your own pride, your own sin that you got to deal with. And so I was so outwardly focused that I was not focused on myself and what I needed to do to be a better husband. I was not a good husband. I was not. I admit to that. I was not a good husband. And just I would be. I could read, listen to sermons, read scripture, and I would see what everybody else had to do instead of myself. Like, oh yeah, oh this scripture said you need to. This scripture said you need to, but I didn't take that in for myself. So that was a dynamic that I learned the hard way with that, and I understand that, especially as being a father now, that one of the biggest dynamics that I have to do is still love her mom a way that she sees that, oh yeah, they're divorced, but he still has respect for her. He still has love for her. He still treats her, because I understand there's a deep connection between loving uh, a daughter and loving her mother. Like there's a deep connection there. I can't just treat her mother any kind of way and then just love my daughter and think everything's gonna be cool. Like she's my daughter's 7. She realizes um, how I treat her, and that's a very important dynamic I need to keep in mind. But yeah, I'll still believe in marriage. I still love the idea. I still believe in it. And I may have messed up my situation, but I understand even in the dynamic I am now. Here's one of the deceptions about divorce. divorce makes you feel like once you get rid of the other person, there's a whole lot of other issues you don't have to worry about anymore because they're gone. And that's a lie. You are connected to this person for life. And yet all those other skills you needed to deal with issues and work through problems, you still have to work through those issues. It's just harder now because it's from separate households, separate situations, outside relationships. So it's like you just made your situation harder trying to make it easy. Like when the Bible says don't let anybody separate what God has put together, there's a reason for that. Like God knows exactly what he's talking about.
Mhm.
He invented marriage, so he knows that the world is gonna make it seem like once you get divorced, it's gonna be easier. And I'm telling you, I would not wish this on anybody, anybody, and especially if you have kids. Oh my God, it's like if you didn't want to put in work in your marriage, you definitely got to do double time outside. So, but I thank God because He's opening my mind. He's showing me, and helping me realize that if I, like Brandon mentioned, like just focus on seeking Him, and all these other things are just going to be added and falling into place. So, and things right now are pretty good, even though they in kind of a bad situation from the outskirts. But I think everybody's still in a good place as can be based on the situation.
Good stuff.
So, do you think you'll ever be married again? Do you think you'll ever have children again outside of your 7-year-old daughter?
I believe in all of that. I'm not gonna put a cap on what God has for me in my life. I still want to be a husband, especially now that I feel like I know how to be one now after the fact. But yeah, so I would like to. I still believe that, and I would love for that opportunity to happen. And if God willing makes that happen, I'll definitely do it different than how I did it before.
How do you prepare for the next one, right?
Uh, well, the opposite of what I did the first time. It's like it's really literally like knowing that if if I make sure that I'm in tune with God how I'm supposed to be, then a lot of these things will just fall into place. It's not like it's, I guess I'm realizing when I'm reading the word, it's not really that rocket science for real. I realize that God has a plan. Seek Him first, and all these other things will be added. You'll love you'll love your wife better when you love God first, because you'll know how to love her. You'll be a better father when you love God first, because He's the example of being a father. It's I feel like I get it now, and I realized that I had more control over the situation than I felt like it was. I felt like everything was just happening to me. But when I realized that I can take control and realize that God set me as the head of that situation and I blew it, that I understand that just follow His leadership and He's going to guide me in the way I need to go. I trust Him.
It's good, man.
I have a question for you, Ben. I mean, is it more so now a work on me first type of thing, and then, well, it kind of is a work on me first, with God in the midst of that
Mhm.
before I find somebody else. So, do you think that that's going to slow your search, or is it a search now, or is it basically, when God brings her, that's where it is?
Well, yeah, I'm in the mindset of focus on making sure that I'm the best man that I can be, and I know God is going to work it out like He did before. There's some things that I'm praying for and hoping for that I can't even talk about that I am just believing God for, and I just believe that God's going to work it out. That He's not done with me yet. He's not done with my situation yet, and I don't know. I just got hope. Why would you teach me more about marriage after divorce if there's not an opportunity for me to make that situation or another situation a better ending to the story? So, but at this point, whatever God has for me, I'm good about. If I never get married again, I'll be okay with that. If I get married again, cool. But at the end of the day, it's about me and God. And I don't want to. I know some people say, "Yeah, I need to work on myself first." But when are you ever at the point where oh, I'm ready for marriage now? Like you're gonna learn as you go as well.
Yeah, that's true.
Like who walks in the mirror saying, "Oh, I'm the perfect husband. I'm gonna be the same husband I was 10 years from now." No,
Yeah.
like
That new marriage will have different problems.
Yeah.
right.
Different, completely,
And
you know.
that's the thing is like don't even go in and look at like arrogant like yeah I know how to solve that problem, and then you go into the next one like oh once again the tailor made
Yeah.
for you, tailor made. So you just gotta be ready. You just gotta be ready.
And if I can just add a scripture that I was thinking while you were saying that, and then when the Bible says, "For we glory in tribulation, for tribulation worketh patience, and patience
Yes.
experience, and experience hope, and hope maketh not ashamed." And sometimes when things like this fail, we think the tribulation is the thing that destroys. But no, no, no. Wait on God. Like tribulation worketh patience. It teaches you how to wait, and patience experience. The longer you wait, the more you learn and experience hope. Because the more you learn, the more you see. Hey, guess who's there the whole time? Paul said, "When I stood trial, no man stood with me, but lo, God was there."
Yeah.
So and hope makes not ashamed. And when you believe, like I don't care, like you said, if I never get married again, I ain't got nothing to hang my head about, man. And I just want to commend you, brother, on having that steadfastness. Because in raising a daughter, like I know women who come from fathers who are divorced and their fathers are no good to them. Sometimes guys feel like, because if I can't be with your mom, I don't want to be around you either. And I think I commend you, man, as a father, just having the wherewithal to say like, hey, even if things between me and your mom aren't like aren't ideal, I want to still be here for you, man. So I just want to commend you, brother, for sticking it out and holding strong for your baby and taking this time to learn.
Yeah, that they made me want to mention like because said in the last question, I knew I wanted to be a husband. I wanted to be a father before I even met my wife. I knew I wanted to. And so I was more focused on the setup of the situation more than what I had to do to make it work. And when I look at my daughter, I realized that I failed to give her what I really wanted to give her was a structured house because I've seen if I'm pretty sure everybody here knows the difference between a woman who's had a structured household or a household where the father and the mother was together and it was working, and a fatherless household. Like some of those women pretty much stand out. Like you can tell the difference. And I'm like, I can't let my daughter go down that road. But I'm divorced. So how do I still keep my daughter from not going down that road? How do I keep my daughter from not feeling like she was the reason that we got divorced? Because kids internalize stuff all the time from what I'm understanding. And I'm saying like, oh man, I got to have certain conversations about why me and my her mom are not together, and try to let her know that love is still there and she was no part of that and she is still loved. And man, it's just how to be a great father and not be married to her mother is a different dynamic that I wasn't ready for, but I'm here now. So with God, me and God, we're gonna make the best of it.
Amen. Well, I just want to say, bro, just keep it real with her. Amen. As long as you keep it 100 with her. I mean, speaking from a kid that grew up in divorce, my parents were very, yeah, they were secretive about things, but I think it was more protection to, from everything that was going on. I lived with
Mhm.
my mother most of my life, but at the same time, I always knew what was going on, and they never sugarcoated anything from me. They always kept it real with me. Even with the point of me being adopted, I knew from a very early age that I was not their actual natural child, but they raised me like I was.
Mhm.
So, and I think it makes it easier on parents in that dynamic when they say, "Hey, we're just going to let you know what's going on in your own, where you can understand it, but just let you know, hey, this parent loves you and this parent loves you. Never discount that." Never, and that's one thing my parents did. They never talked about each other in front of me to where it looked like that parent didn't love me.
Right.
Or like, now I had to deal with some things with my stepmom. That's a whole different thing. but but my parents never said that in front of me to let
Hmm.
me know, hey, everything is cool. They may not be together, but they stand as a united front to take care of me. That's what I always understood about them. So as long as she understands that about you and her mom, I think it'll work out.
Amen.
Oh, I know it'll work out because God is in the middle of that and he's going to make it work out.
Facts.
Amen.
Hey family, you just finished watching part 1 of the Heart Talk special Father's Day episode. What a treat it has been to hear from these 4 fathers and their insight. We felt like we didn't want to just bombard you with just all this in one episode, so we figured we'll just cut it into 2 parts. So be on the lookout for part 2 coming soon. Peace.